What is up, guys? Took last week off to spend the Thanksgiving with some family, all that good stuff. Pound down some food. But I guess I'm back, so I'm sorry for that, but you'll just have to suck it up. We're going to discuss Greta Thunberg because she decided to make an appearance again, so that's awesome. And because I enjoy embarrassing her. We're also going to talk about a guy who tried to go see a gynecologist, and we're going to discuss Thanksgiving because for some reason the left wants to make it about Indian suppression and all that good stuff when it's not. Everything is stupid. I'm your host, The Shoe, and this is The Schumann Show. We're going to start off today talking about the Democratic primaries. Just like every fan has his favorite sports team in Jersey, I got my own prop for my favorite candidate, Elizabeth Warren. So let's jump into this. Kamala Harris has dropped out of the Democratic debate, and this has led to, of course, to the left eating their own. What else would you expect? They're calling this a sexist and racist event because apparently there are only white men remaining.
It's important to note that now that she's exiting the race, those who have made the debate stage are all white for the next debate. So that's something that the party has to start to consider.
You know, white men like Tulsi Gabbard, Amy Klobuchar, Cory Booker, and of course, Elizabeth Warren. Also, random question, but does Pete Buttigieg get no intersectionality points for being gay from the Democrats? Because I kind of find that rather homophobic.
This is all wrong.
So, just throwing that out there. Also, anybody else know what in the world is going on with Joe Biden? I don't even know. I came across this on Twitter the other day. Don't understand. Just gonna let him explain it himself in his old creepy Joe sort of way. Take it away, Joe.
And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
And anyhow, that was just my random update on the Democratic primaries, kind of what's going on. And farewell to you, Kamala Harris. May you forever find joy in not being a presidential candidate. Okay. All right. In other important news, people are outraged over this Paleon bike ad that, here, just check out the ad and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Now.
A Peloton? Give it up for our first time ride.
All right, first ride. I'm a little nervous, but excited. Let's do this. 5 days in a row. You surprised? I am.
6 a.m. Yay.
Rising with the sun.
That was totally worth it.
Let's go, Grace in Boston. 50 rides.
She just said my name. A year ago, I didn't realize how much this would change me. Thank you.
This holiday, give the gift of Peloton.
Okay. Doesn't seem so bad, does it? No, not too crazy. I didn't find anything wrong with it. It just looks like a bike that people pedal on and join live sessions. It's kind of cool. Anyhow, they're saying, what kind of guy gives the gift of exercise equipment to his wife? This is completely sexist, apparently. You can't give exercise equipment to women because that's body shaming.
How dare you?
And I don't know, maybe the kind of guy who would give this as a gift is a guy that wants his wife to actually take care of herself and live longer than a woman who shoves cheeseburgers down her gullet. Just throwing that out there. I don't know, healthy wife or dead wife. Which one would you rather have? And the fact that we are now shaming what it is to be healthy is definitely one of the contributing factors that is causing our life expectancy to decline here in the United States. Obviously, the more unhealthy food you eat, the less you take care of yourself, the sooner you die. And also, you just live a more miserable life. let's be completely honest, more medical issues along your way, all that good stuff. So get out there, get one of these bikes, and get healthy. You know, my wife works out all the time. She ends up feeling better about herself. She's super healthy and super crazy hot. So yeah, exercise equipment is a win for both of us, if I'm being completely honest. And I don't see anything wrong with that at all. In fact, spoiler alert, I'm going to gift her a new cutting board and some knives this Christmas so that she can become more proficient at making me sandwiches in the kitchen per my every demand. And that's not sexist either. That's healthy. Anyhow, on to more idiotic things that happened in the news. Last week, we discussed the wall and everybody coming over here and all that good stuff and how people need to assimilate. Well, I got a comment on my video that read, "Yo man, how about worldly things like football? The shirt you're wearing from a Roman circus or the worldly fashion? The beard that fashion gurus told you to have, not many realize that this is aimed to make men wear Islamic beards because they think they are so trendy. How about starting with the basics?" That's awesome. So it's from somebody named Arc Rainbow. So that's cool. But when it all comes down to it, the point, everything comes from something. Everything originates from other cultures. That's what makes America so great, is that everybody has all these ideas. But the thing that makes America so awesome is everybody took these ideas and they promulgated them and pushed them forward to create a civilized society in which made America. We were all working toward building a society. We weren't trying to separate ourselves off and only become like people from India to only become Indians, or people from Irish to only become, or from Ireland to become Irish. Everybody came together to form one country. That was the point. It's okay if you missed it. I can talk slower next time. Moving on, Greta decides to make an appearance. The 16-year-old spoiled brat decided to open her mouth once again. And once again, I feel it absolutely necessary to unveil the obvious fact that a spoiled brat is all she really is. After making her mother limit her job as an opera singer by restricting her flights and then forcing her spineless parents to go vegan and, yes, give up bacon, I feel the need to bring her up once again, because once you step into the public arena, you're off limits. It's apparently to the left, but I have this problem with not caring. So now that I heard that she has a lot, when she travels abroad and all this good stuff, she takes this yacht everywhere, because apparently I was struck down a little bit on some social media. Well, she takes a yacht everywhere. It's emission free, and that's what saves the world. Well, not really. So, in fact, if she did take this yacht, all the emissions that she would have saved from traveling are in fact useless, because the gal by the name of Nikki Henderson, which you may or may not know, is actually the skipper of this emission-free yacht, and she has to fly her jet from Britain to America so then they could sail. So instead of Greta just flying, she flies her skipper out to hop on this boat so that then they can sail. Kind of defeats the purpose of taking a boat everywhere, doesn't it? Not only that, but this totally negates the fact of her taking her yacht when they set sail for 3,000 miles. So her boat is made of carbon fiber, which in turn is actually a byproduct of petroleum, which is the very thing she hates and what she's speaking against. It even gets better than that, because this boat is equipped with not one, but 2 diesel engines, according to Multi-Hill Central, which is a boat review site. It was a good try, though, right? I mean, it's emission-free. Yeah, so is my Duramax. Okay. Now, don't you understand that she is just completely ruining our way of life by all this stuff? I mean, she's taking this double diesel engined boat everywhere she goes and spreading emissions everywhere. The things that she's doing to the environment is just unbelievable. But yet, nobody can bring that up, because that completely blows her case out of the water. And we can't do that because she's a child and she's off limits. Well, not anymore. She can't also help but continue to say stupid things like fossil fuels are literally killing mankind and that they are a very threat to our existence. She also claims that the climate crisis agenda is not about saving the environment, but is also about fighting the colonial, racist, and patriarchal systems of oppression. Because when a man and a woman get married, they produce carbon emissions, and that's bad. Or something like that. I don't know. But apparently, we can say things that don't make sense as long as it preaches to the correct side. In her speech on December 3rd, she claimed that the media needs to give more attention to climate and how all these countries need to lower emissions. But she doesn't tell them how. She gives no solution. She says, well, we have all these solutions on the table, like I could be going to school to become a climate scientist. Well, why would I become a climate scientist when all the solutions are already available? If all the solutions are already available, why aren't we doing them? A, they're not cost effective. B, they're stupid. Or C, they take up a crap load of space. Which also falls under stupid. So, she finds that there's no point in going to school because she is convinced that the world will not exist by the time she grows old.
My dreams and my childhood.
Could you imagine, like, being that convinced that the world is going to end by the time you grow up to the point where you completely skip school? She's going to be either in a mental asylum or flipping burgers here pretty soon, and it's going to be great. But I suppose the left will give her some weird position that they make up within government and make her work there and do nothing on the taxpayer dollar. But hopefully that's over in Europe and not here, because we already pay enough useless people to do useless jobs. So she believes that the older generations have been acting like children, leading to this climate catastrophe, and now it's up to her generation to take responsibility. Her generation and the word responsibility should definitely not be in the same sentence at all. And both of those words coming out of her mouth at the same time shouldn't happen, because that is the funniest thing I have heard in a long time. Because tell you what, you stop popping Tide Pods, begin to take responsibility of yourself, your own economic outcome when you get older, your healthcare, your retirement fund. Yes, I'm talking about Social Security, which is a complete garbage. And I'm sorry for everybody who paid into it and probably won't get it back. But I would completely do it with the entire system right now if I could. Your family. You need to take responsibility of your college degree to pay off those college debts. You need to take responsibility of your emotional well-being. Yes, that means crying on TV. Take responsibility. Suck it up. Time to move on. The world isn't all rainbows. And, you know, the other thing, too, is all these people who are fighting for your environment are the same exact people who would rather jam a scissors into a child's head than take up responsibility for the being that they created. You know now absolutely nothing of responsibility. You speak of no solutions. You fly around as a prop proclaiming your socialistic agenda. Greta, that is all you are. You're a prop. You're a tool. You're nothing more than a mouthpiece for the political elites who want nothing more than government control of our own businesses. So while you mimic the cries of the left and weep for a future you won't fix, I'll happily be here supporting those who frack, drill, and mine and roll coal, because you're obviously right. It does make good money, and money makes a better economy as well as a better way of life. So while you're flipping burgers at Burger King because you failed to go to school, I'll be living a decent life in my own home that I own myself. You won't see tear in my eyes as I'm laying down rubber in my diesel. So, moving on from Greta, because that is not even the dumbest thing that happened this week.
People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction.
I know, it's hard to believe, but here we go. A guy by the name of Jessica, we're off to a great start already. A guy by the name of Jessica Yaniv he says this. So, a gynecologist's office that I got referred to literally told me today that we don't serve misgendered patients. And me, being me, I'm shocked and confused and hurt. Are they allowed to do that legally? Isn't that against the college practices? A dude, went to go see a gynecologist. For those of you who don't know what a gynecologist is, they treat female reproductive organs. Okay? Newsflash, you have to be a woman for this to work. Okay? Crazy. Does this make sense? Do I have to do a repeat of the last time I taught you sex ed in this video? I don't know. Maybe. Male, female. You put them together and you get power, right? Or in biology's case, a baby. Okay? These are meant to live together and they work. This and this are both males. If this one pretends to be a female, or if I pretend that it's a female and I call it a female, it still doesn't plug in. Crazy, I know, but for some reason, there are people out there who believe that you can put this and this together and get power, or in biology, a baby. No power. Doesn't work. So I went and I looked for definitions to use, for a gynecologist. And this definition comes from Medical News Today, okay? This definition states, a gynecologist is a person that treats patients with female reproductive organs, whether or not they identify as a woman. You could have just said, a gynecologist treats female reproductive organs. Because we would all assume that that would be in females, not males. Males don't have reproductive organs that are the same as females. This is so painful. I can't believe that this is real life. This is real life, guys. This is the world that we're living in right now. Now, words have no meaning anymore. And apparently, I live in Narnia because everything is make-believe. Now, the next time I go to my mechanic, I'm going to ask if I can purchase a life insurance policy through them. And if they don't, I will come down on them with everything at my disposal. Much like this dude is doing by the way of College of Physicians and Surgeons of British Columbia. So he's filing a complaint against this gynecologist via this college, and he's going to attempt to bring him to court. I think this is the same dude who also wanted his genitals waxed, and they denied him service there. This dude is a creep, and it is basically a way for perverts to get away with sexual activity, and then when you deny them that service, then they come back at you, and they try to bring you down with the law or sue you for a crap load of cash because obviously they're too mentally unstable to get a job of their own because they're too worried about their own mental image of themselves, which is completely unbased from reality itself. If we go down this road, we're going to get away with gender altogether, then this completely dilutes the medical practices because, newsflash, some diseases and some abnormalities within the human body have to do with what sex you are. Oh, crazy, I know. A guy wakes up and he ends up throwing up all over. Goes into a doctor. Doctor's not going to ask, you're probably pregnant. Nope, that can't happen because I'm a dude. Where if it was a woman, some other tests might be done, because common sense. Anyhow, with this dilution within the medical field, it's going to start leading to people being misdiagnosed, and it'll have a bunch of other ramifications that could end up actually taking the lives of people. But nobody seems to care about that because everybody's so worried about each other's feelings that we could care less about each other's lives. It all starts with pretending you were something you're not. A guy pretends he's a female pretends he's a guy. You cut off certain body parts because of it, and pretty soon you have people who are getting exhaust put down their throat and spark plugs in their guts. Now, this all comes down to a bigger spectrum of things. Now, somebody said that you would be completely crazy if you went into a doctor's office and you were like, hey, can you just remove my arm? Just take off my arm. The doctor would be like, well, why would I do that? Well, because I just want my arm gone. Doctor would be a little confused. He'd probably not do it and tell you you're crazy until you get some mental help. Same thing goes for the guys who are trying to be women. There is no point in trying to physically castrate yourself because you believe you're something else. That is a mental condition and you need help. A lot of help. And the people that are affirming this mental thing are doing nothing but abusing the mentality of those who are going through this gender dysphoria that they're facing. It's gross and it's disgusting, and the people who are affirming it are just as bad as the people who are doing it. It is a refusal to give these people the help that they need, and instead are throwing them to their own horrible thoughts that they're something that they are not, because nobody wants to stand up and tell people that they're dumb. Now, the best part of this is this guy. This guy who pretends to be a woman, okay? You might want to sit down, because you're not going to believe this. But this dude is pretending to be a chick, and then he's claiming to be a lesbian. What? Why? Talk about trying to do things the hard way, right? I mean, yeah, because when I was looking for a girlfriend in high school, my first thought was, hey, maybe I should put on a dress and wear a wig. Maybe the girls will like me then. That's not how this works. It's like trying to do things this insane hard way. Why? Why would you make things harder on yourself? You know what? Totally understandable why a lot of that generation doesn't have a job and why they don't want to work hard, because if they're going the hard way about doing this, I could only imagine what some of the other jobs would turn into. I mean, a plumber would be like, oh, I don't know, let's maybe throw a big engine in there. Why? Well, why not? Why? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. So I recently posted on my Facebook and Twitter and a few other social media accounts, and I posted how happy I was to have a snowblower, right? Because we got a crap load of snow over the weekend, and it was nuts. So I was very happy to have a snowblower, and I was thankful to the guy who invented it because I'm lazy, and I'm okay with that. Now, a couple of people who were older than I am stated back in my day we had to use shovels made of wood that would splinter your hands, and the snow was heavier back then, and we had to carry each scoop 30 miles uphill both ways. And they were exaggerating, of course. They were exaggerating, right? We get that. We understand that. We know when a story's kind of being blown out of proportion, especially when they start adding uphill both ways. What this guy's doing is the same thing, but he's not exaggerating. Some of these idiots in my generation, years from now, will be like, back in my day, we had to hack off parts that made us a boy and pretend to be a woman in order to date a woman. Only they won't be kidding, and they won't be exaggerating because they did it. You had physical surgery to make yourself a woman so that you could like women. I don't think that's how things are done anymore. I just don't. I would be hard pressed. You know, most of the girls I went to school with, it wasn't a giant lesbian fest, okay? Girls like guys, guys like girls. This is the normal way how things work, right? You can procreate, make children, pass on a heritage, be able to change, drive teachings down to your children, pass on. You're gay, you don't have kids, nothing to pass on. It's less attractive. That and other things. Anyhow, we're going to move on to Thanksgiving because that stuff was gay and I'm done talking about it for today. Okay? Thanksgiving. This Thanksgiving time, I want to focus on a particular man by the name of William Bradford, who was the governor of the Plymouth colony. Really cool dude. Been studying a little bit about him in my class that I'm taking, and then a couple of books. I can recommend some to you if you want to hear more, but this guy's perseverance through the time period that he was going through is absolutely astounding, and the ability that he had at his disposal to completely give up business for his family and to give up so much was just unbelievable to me. So I kind of want to share it with you. If you don't know who William Bradford is, you're going to learn today. So let's move on. Now, William Bradford, as I said, became the governor of the Plymouth colony. This was the second permanent colonial settlement within the New World. America, yay! We all like that here. Okay, this colony was founded by the Mayflower, a ship that the colonists boarded on July 22nd in 1620 in Delft-Hoven, Holland. Now, this boat ended up landing in Cape Cod Bay, or present-day Massachusetts. Now, this whole incredible story of this man of the Plymouth colony is just really brings the whole meaning of Thanksgiving kind of to a complete closure for me, because it's just awesome, because it's one of religious liberty and religious freedom from the church that was over there. Now, this Bradford was born in England, and during the rise of about the time period where the Puritans began to rise up, they were a separation from the Church of England. Now, though this was a Protestant church, the Church of England, it was very much like the Roman Catholic Church. It had like a set of hierarchy. It had bishops and church rulers and everything like that. So the Puritans were kind of set apart from that. Now, Bradford was born into a wealthy family in charge of a bunch of land, and it was all farmed by peasants. William, though, was, when he grew up, he was a really, really sick kid. He spent a lot of time in his room. He's pretty much bored his entire childhood and didn't do a whole lot. So when he wasn't playing Xbox or posting to Instagram or whatever kids back then did, he spent most of his time studying scripture at extreme great lengths. I mean, let's be honest. They didn't have a whole lot to do back then. There wasn't much going on. So he just read. And I think we as a generation have really lost that. We have so much going on in our lives now that it's hard to find time to be able to study at the lengths that these guys did. You look back at the founding fathers, and like they were graduating Harvard at like the age of like 20, and it's like 17, running businesses by the age of like 11. It's like, no, that's cool. Our kids are definitely not doing that. They're a lot dumber, but it's just the world that we live in. They had to make something of themselves because they were so bored and didn't really have anything else to do but study. Now, as when he got older, he became a lot less ill and was able to live a lot more of a normal life outside in public and within society and everything like that. His readings of the scripture, because he had access to them, began to have a huge fundamental impact on his life, because not everybody had access to the scriptures that were there. And many of them were ruled by this church, okay? And they just believed whoever the bishop was or pastor of that time. Now, he found a Puritan group near his home led by Reverend Richard Clifton. He later joined this group and became a deeply devoted Christian man. His family, being a part of the Church of England, obviously became extremely angry and harshly attempted to persuade him to return to the Church of England. Now, this guy, he was just a rebel. He was a rebel of the established church of that place and that of his family for the cause of God and for the cause of Scripture. He didn't listen to what his family had to say, or the established church leaders, or those lifted up to high stations within the church. No, instead, he took the scriptures for what they said and held God as his truth and moved forward in his walk with God using the scriptures. Now, he even had to flee England due to the persecution from the church there, from the stuff that he was saying and spreading. This is crazy because this guy not only was rejected by his family, or had his family extremely angered by him, but his countrymen persecuted him so much that he was forced to leave. Now, he fled to Holland, but many stories have actually arisen from England of these dissenters and Puritans who were viciously and violently confronted by the Church of England. These accounts showed that these Puritan beliefs were simply biblical ideas and passages promulgated the idea that every Christian should have the freedom to read the scriptures and relate directly to the Lord without intervention of the church. They wanted religious liberty. They wanted to be able to study the scriptures on their own rather than being told by a government entity what to believe and how to believe it. That's what they wanted. So they ended up getting kicked out and persecuted for that because they weren't following what everybody else was following. A lot of this sure sounds familiar in today's day and age, doesn't it? Hint, hint. Anyhow, by the age of 18, Bradford lived in Holland, but he ended up, remember how I said he was a really wealthy dude? Well, he inherited a bunch of land, just crazy amounts of land, but the land was over in England. So he sold it quickly because he didn't want anything to do with that. And he took all that money and he ended up putting it into his business over in Holland. I believe he had something to do with silk or thread. It was something like that over there. But anyhow, he poured it all into his business, in which he continued that business until he joined the group that engaged the Mayflower to relocate for the purchase of religious liberty in America. Now, why leave Holland? Like, he fled England to go to Holland, right? You would think that Holland would be better. And it was, to a point. There was not as much persecution over in Holland as what there was over in England. But many of the people, as we really see today, a lot of people became more secularized. They began falling away from the church. Well, a lot of these Puritans ended up loving their children so much that they wanted to establish a new home and a new society where they were free to serve the Lord and live a biblically obedient life without fear of government interference and without the impressions of the secular society among their children. So it's either they go to this crazy strict England, with their Church of England, and that's pretty much the Roman Catholic Church, or go to Holland where everything's extremely secularized. Well, they wanted a place where they could raise their children that would be a biblical life in the way that they saw fit without government intervention, as what was in England. So they hopped on the Mayflower, right? Now, en route, the group realized that they would need some sort of governmental structure by which to live upon once they arrive at this new place. You can't just have a bunch of people just randomly doing whatever they want, whenever they want, because that's crazy. I mean, that's anarchy. No rules. Anybody just does what they want. I mean, you'd have people like this guy going to a gynecologist, right? I mean, just dumb stuff. And anyhow, this boat, I want to stress, was completely emissions free. Okay? It didn't have a diesel engine. It didn't even have 2 diesel engines. It was completely emissions free. So Greta approved.
No matter how sad and angry I am, I do not want to believe that.
Anyhow, they ended up compacting the Mayflower Compact. And then it was born, written, and signed before the group ever arrived at Cape Cod. Now, the Mayflower Compact, some people, in fact, a lot of people, historians, think that a lot of these people who came over on the boat were not God-fearing people, or they were deists, or they were just a bunch of savages who wanted to attack the Indians and stuff when they arrived, that they were crazed, or all that good stuff. So I want to read the part of the Mayflower Compact, and you can decide. So, the Mayflower Compact goes, having undertaken for the glory of God, the advancement of the Christian faith, and honor for our king and country, a voyage to plant the first colony in the northern parts of Virginia, do by these presents solemnly and mutually in the presence of God and one of another, covenant and combine ourselves together in a civil body for politic, for our better ordering and preservation and furtherance of the ends aforesaid, and by virtue hereof to enact, constitute, and frame such just and equal laws, ordinances, acts, constitutions, and offices from time to time as shall be thought most meet and convenient for the general good of the colony, unto which we promise all due submissions and obedience. In witness whereof, we have hereunder subscribed our names at Cape Cod, the 11th of November, in the year of the reign of our sovereign Lord, King James of England, France, and Ireland, the 18th, and to Scotland the 54th, and on down, 1620. Now, if that doesn't scream Christianity, then you weren't listening or you're deaf. So, and I won't forgive you, but you'll have to accept that. These people were deeply committed Christians. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's written all over their lives. These people were focused to bring glory to God and establish a place of peace where Christians could live and worship God under the influence of Scripture. Not some church, not some government entity, and away from the secularization of what was happening in Holland. William Bradford was one of 103 people who survived the voyage, while 51 of them perished. Bradford was so invested in his religious freedom from the tyrannical Church of England that on his tombstone when he died it read, "What our fathers with so much difficulty attained, do not basely relinquish." This man fought for a new world of religious freedom where they took the Bible as truth, and not some popular man in a pulpit, not some televangelist. He stood against his family, he stood against his homeland, and after building a business and selling his land, he gave it all up to ensure his kids would have the same religious freedoms that he wanted for himself. Now, of course, revisionist history would have you believe that these Indians were the focus of Thanksgiving for all the food that they bought. However, truth be told, God was the focus of this great and amazing time of Thanksgiving. For the religious freedoms they have now been granted, the Indians, as their guests, were invited and included to partake in this magnificent feast. Not to bring food, but to provide a witness and a testimony to them of Bradford's great and mighty God, as well as his faithfulness to obey and endure, to provide his children and his people with a place of religious freedom. As for that, I'm going to cut her off short today. That's all for today. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen or watch my random thoughts and my random shenanigans. If you have any questions, feel free to message me on Twitter at straightwhiteshoe, or you can email me, because Twitter is a cesspool of garbage, at straightwhiteshoe@outlook.com. As a quick wrap up, just remember, Greta's nothing more than a spoiled brat in a pond.
How dare you!
You don't have to become a lesbian to find true love, and Thanksgiving is an incredible story of freedom and perseverance. I'm your host, The Shoe, and this is The Schumann Show.